I never thought I'd be the guy posting on a relationship advice subreddit about something this messed up, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I was with my wife Emily for about 5 years. We met in college, got engaged last year, and our wedding was supposed to be in 2 weeks. Things weren't perfect, but I thought we had something real. She was always a little bitchy, quick to snap, often dismissive of my feelings, but I figured that was just her personality. Still, I loved her and I was ready to start this new chapter. At first, everything seemed normal. We were planning the wedding, I was working late sometimes. She was busy with her job as a marketing exec. She was flashy, always dressing to impress, and her attitude could be sharp as hell. But I noticed small signs that, looking back, should have been tiny red flags. She was secretive with her phone, always locking it, hiding it when I got close. She'd get defensive if I asked to see it, saying I was being paranoid. I brushed it off, convinced she was just one of those people who didn't like sharing everything. Then came the little things. Missing things, strange texts at odd hours. She'd get defensive if I ever asked who she was texting, claiming it was work stuff or just some friend. But I could tell she was lying. Her attitude shifted. She became colder, more dismissive, and the more I tried to talk to her about feeling shut out, the more she snapped at me. I even caught her in little lies about where she was going or who she was with. Nothing huge, but enough to make me suspicious. Still, I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe I was just stressed about the wedding. Maybe I was paranoid because I was nervous. But then, about 3 days ago, I found her phone accidentally lying on the bed when I went to grab my keys. I usually don't do that, but I was in a rush. I picked it up to unlock it, and that's when I saw the texts. I didn't even need to unlock it because the messages were right there, open on the screen. And what I saw made my stomach drop. It was from her. The words, the tone, they weren't just friendly. They were intimate, flirty, downright sexual sometimes. I saw texts where she was talking about her hot nights with someone named Ryan. She was describing how good sex was with him, how they had shared a crazy night last weekend. I saw pictures, selfies, half naked of her and him. The worst part, she was lying right to my face, constantly denying she was cheating. She'd say I was overreacting, that I was making things up, that I was jealous and paranoid. But the evidence was right there, staring me in the face. I didn't know what to do at first. My mind was racing, my heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. I felt this wave of anger, betrayal, hurt so intense it was like a punch to the gut. She had lied to me for months, maybe longer. I'd always been a good husband, supportive, caring, trying to make her happy, and here she was, sneaking around with my best man of all people, the guy I trusted the most after her. It all hit me like a freight train. The wedding, our future, everything was a lie. I couldn't even process it at first, just sat there staring at her phone, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. The worst part, the way she lied when I confronted her. I texted her telling her I knew everything and she just denied it. Said I was imagining things, that I was paranoid, that she loved me, that she was just talking to Ryan about some stupid work project or whatever. But I knew better. I knew she was lying because I saw her words, her pictures, her dirty secrets. How could she? How could she do this to me just days before our wedding? It felt like everything I believed in, everything I was about, was shattered in that moment. So after I saw those texts, I didn't even sleep that night. I stayed up, staring at the screen on her phone, trying to process what I'd just discovered. My mind kept going back to all the times she dismissed my concerns, the little lies she told about where she was, who she was with. I felt sick, betrayed, like I'd been punched in the chest so many times I couldn't breathe. The worst part was knowing this had been going on for who knows how long, and I was only just finding out. The next morning, I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I woke her up early before she left for her job, and I told her I knew the truth. Her face twisted into this fake, bitchy smile. She thought she could spin her way out of it. She tried to deny everything, saying I was crazy, that I was just jealous, that I was reading too much into some innocent texts. But I held up her phone and said, "Look at this. I saw the messages, Emily. Tell me how that's innocent." Her eyes flicked, her mouth opened to lie again, but she knew I had proof. She snapped back, "It's none of your business. You're just overreacting. Ryan's just a friend and you don't trust me anymore." She kept insisting that I was insecure, that I was making a mountain out of a molehill, But I wasn't buying it. I was furious. The kind of furious that makes your hands shake, your voice shake, your whole body tremble. I told her if she wanted to keep lying, that was her choice. But I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. That I deserve honesty, and if she couldn't give me that, then we were over. She rolled her eyes and spat out some bullshit about how I was ruining everything, how she never cheated, how it was all a misunderstanding. Yeah, right. A misunderstanding that involved her sharing dirty texts, pictures, and even plans to meet up. I asked her if she knew what she was doing to me, how she was destroying everything we built. She just shrugged with that annoyed, bitchy expression and said I was overreacting, that I was controlling. I felt my blood boil. I told her I couldn't trust her anymore, that our wedding was off and I was done, that I wanted her to leave. She didn't take that well. She started yelling, calling me all kinds of names, saying I was crazy, possessive, and that I was ruining her life. She even had the nerve to say I was lucky she didn't just leave her and run off with Ryan, like that was some kind of insult. Honestly, I didn't care. I just wanted her gone. I told her she was a liar and a cheat, and I wanted her out of my house. She stormed out, throwing a fit, yelling she'd get her stuff and leave. But that's when things got really complicated. Because later that day, I kept thinking about her reactions, how quick she was to deny everything, how she shrugged off the evidence like it was nothing. I remembered her bitchy attitude, how she always dismissed my feelings, and suddenly I realized this wasn't just about some affair. It was about her complete lack of respect, her betrayal of everything we'd meant to each other. I felt this deep-rooted anger, but also a crushing sadness. I'd loved her. I still loved her, even after all this mess. And now I was faced with a choice I never thought I'd have to make. Do I fight for us, or do I walk away? I spent the rest of that day locked in my own head, going over everything. I was hurt, furious, betrayed, and honestly, a little numb. I had this fleeting hope that maybe she'd come to her senses, admit everything, apologize, and we could somehow fix this. But deep down, I knew that was probably wishful thinking. She never admitted to cheating outright, only kept claiming it was a misunderstanding or that I was crazy. But I saw what I saw, and I knew her lies couldn't cover that up forever. I just didn't know what to do next. I felt so lost, angry at myself for trusting her, and wondering how I let it get this far. The days that followed were a blur of emotions I can't really put into words. I kept replaying everything in my head: her sneaky behavior, the texts, her bitchy attitude, her lies. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see it coming. It felt like I'd been punched over and over again, like some cruel joke I was the punchline to. Every time I saw her, her face twisted in that dismissive smirk, I felt this surge of rage. How could she just lie so effortlessly? How could she betray me like that just days before our wedding? It was like she'd been planning this all along, and I was just too blind to see. I decided I had to do something. I wasn't going to let her get away with it without consequences. I started digging. I went through her phone more carefully, this time looking for anything I might have missed. I also reached out to Ryan, the guy she was texting, an old friend of hers, supposedly. I needed to know what they'd been up to, what their plans were. It didn't take long. I found more messages, more pictures, even a few voicemails where they were talking about meeting up that very weekend. Every new piece of evidence just made me angrier. She'd been sneaking around behind my back, lying to my face, and I had no idea. I also noticed something else. Her attitude was getting worse. She was bitchy, snippy, dismissive, more than usual. She'd snap at me for asking questions or trying to talk about what was going on. Honestly, I think she knew I was onto her, and she was trying to throw me off. That realization only fueled my desire to get revenge, to make her see what it feels like to be betrayed, to be lied to and discarded like trash. I started planning, plotting ways to make her regret what she'd done, but I knew I had to be smart about it. I wanted her to pay, but I didn't want to look like a fool either. One night I set up a camera in the bedroom, not to spy or stalk, but just to catch her in the act if she tried to sneak anything past me again. I wanted to catch her in her own lies, in her own game. For a day or two, nothing happened, and I kept feeling this mix of hope and dread. Then late one night, I saw her sneaking out of the house. She was tiptoeing, clutching her purse, looking over her shoulder like she was afraid someone would catch her. I was hiding in the living room watching her through the camera feed. My stomach clenched. That confirmed everything. She was planning to meet Ryan again. It was real, all of it. That moment, everything in me boiled over. I couldn't take it anymore. I knew I had to do something drastic. I didn't want to just confront her again. I wanted her to see that I knew the truth, that I was done playing her game. I decided I'd catch her in the act and then I'd expose her for good. I set up a plan to follow her, to see where she was going when left. I wanted to get proof, real proof, so I could either confront her with it or take it to the next step. What I didn't expect, though, was how quickly everything escalated once I followed her. I parked my car a few blocks away, kept my distance, and watched her go into a seedy motel. She was with Ryan. They stayed there for over an hour, then left together, looking all over each other's faces like they couldn't get enough. That was it. I had everything I needed. The final nail in the coffin. I watched her get into her car, her face all smug, as if she'd just gotten away with murder. I felt my fists clench, my heart pounding so hard I thought I might have a heart attack. I knew I couldn't keep quiet anymore. I'd gather everything, then confront her one last time, or maybe just ruin her completely. Either way, I was done being the fool in her game. The next morning, I woke up with a clear plan. I had all the evidence I needed: photos, videos, proof of her meetings with Ryan. I wasn't going to confront her right away. I wanted to prepare myself emotionally, figure out exactly what I was going to say. I had a mixture of rage and heartbreak swirling inside me, and I knew I had to be smart. I couldn't just blow up, not yet. I needed her to see that I knew everything, that she couldn't lie her way out of it anymore. I got dressed and went straight to a lawyer. I wanted to know what my options were, what I could do to hurt her back, to make her realize the gravity of what she'd done. The lawyer looked at the evidence I had and his expression got serious. "This is pretty clear-cut," he said. "You could file for divorce, and if you want to go further, you could pursue a custody case if you have kids, or even look into legal options for infidelity. But be prepared, this will get ugly." I nodded, feeling the weight of it all. I wasn't looking for just a divorce. I wanted her to pay for what she did. That night, I decided it was time. I messaged her, telling her I knew everything, that I had proof, and that I wanted to meet. Of course, she denied everything, even though I sent her the photos and videos. Her reply was typical: "You're crazy. You're overreacting. Stop stalking me." But I didn't care. I told her I was done playing her games and I wanted her to come back home so we could talk face to face. If she was innocent, she'd come clean. If not, I'd have everything I needed to end this once and for all. She showed up the next evening, her face angry, defensive, and that bitchy smirk still there. I didn't bother with small talk. I laid out everything: her texts, her meetings, her lies. She tried to deny it, of course. "It's just sex, Jake," she spat. "It's not a big deal. Ryan and I are just friends. You're making this into some huge deal." Yeah, right. I told her I didn't care what she called it: cheating, lying, betrayal. The fact was, she'd been screwing around with my best man just days before our wedding, and she thought she could get away with it because she's Emily. Her reaction was hilarious. She started crying, then went into full-blown bitch mode. "You don't own me," she yelled. "I can do whatever I want. You're just jealous because Ryan's got more sex appeal than you ever did." I couldn't believe the audacity. The woman who'd always acted like she was God's gift to men was now accusing me of being insecure. I told her she was done, that I was done, and that if she ever tried to come back, I'd make sure she regrets crossing me. That's when I told her I was calling a lawyer, filing for divorce, and making sure she paid for her betrayal. She looked at me, eyes filled with rage and desperation. "You'll regret this, Jake. You'll see. Ryan's just a fling. You're overreacting. You're crazy." I just shook my head. I'd heard enough. I knew she'd lie, try to manipulate, but I wouldn't let her. I was done. I told her to pack her stuff, get out, and never come back. I wanted her gone from my life completely. And I knew, deep down, I'd never trust her again. The damage was done, and I was ready to move on, even if it hurt like hell. The day she left was one of the hardest days of my life, but also the most relieving. Watching her pack her things with that bitchy, defiant attitude was like watching a villain in her final act. She kept throwing fits, calling me names, trying to guilt-trip me into changing my mind. But I was done. I didn't want to hear her lies or her manipulations anymore. I told her to get out and never come back. She threw a few more tantrums, crying and yelling about how I was ruining her life, but I didn't care. It was over. After she left, I sat alone in the house for a long time. I felt a strange mix of emptiness, anger, and relief. Part of me thought about trying to fix things, to forgive her somehow, but deep down I knew that was impossible. Once you've been betrayed that badly, trust is shattered, and no amount of apologies can fix that. I kept looking at her texts and pictures, realizing how much she's hurt me, how much she's lied. I kept asking myself if I'd ever be able to trust again, or if I should just walk away and start over. I spent the next few days poring over everything, talking to a lawyer and planning my next steps. I filed for divorce. I wanted her out of my life, out of my house, out of my heart. I wanted her to feel some of the pain she'd caused me, to see what betrayal really feels like. I also reached out to a few close friends and family who were supportive and angry on my behalf. They told me to focus on myself, to heal, and to not let her ruin me. It wasn't easy. Every time I saw her face in my mind, I felt this burning ache, but I knew I had to be strong. It's been a few weeks since she left. The house feels empty, quiet, like it's missing a part of itself. I still think about her sometimes, about the good times, the bad times, the betrayal. I wonder if I'll ever fully get over it. But I also know I'm better off without her. I've learned a lot from this. Never ignore the signs, never dismiss your gut feelings, and never let anyone treat you like dirt. I wish I could tell her how much she hurt me, but honestly, I don't think she even cares. She's just that kind of person, selfish, manipulative, and terrible at hiding the truth. Now I'm focusing on myself. I've started going to the gym, reconnecting with friends, and getting my life back on track. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'll never let someone betray me like that again. And if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to know, trust your instincts, watch out for those little signs, and never let anyone make you feel small. Because no matter how much you love someone, it's their actions that truly define them. And hers, they'll haunt me forever, but I'm learning to live with it. Looking back now, I realize that betrayal cuts deeper than I ever thought possible. I felt like I was living in some cruel nightmare, one where everything I believed in was just an illusion. That woman I loved, that I trusted with everything, turned out to be someone I didn't even recognize. It's a punch to the gut to know she'd been sneaking around, lying, cheating just days before our wedding. And the worst part, I let her. I ignored the signs, brushed off the small lies, convinced myself I was just overthinking. But I learned a harsh lesson. You can't ignore the red flags. No matter how much you love someone or how perfect you think your life is, betrayal can sneak in at the worst moments. I wish I'd trusted my gut more from the start. I wish I hadn't let her dismiss my feelings, hadn't given her so many chances to lie. But it's too late for that now. What's done is done. I believe in myself more now than I ever did before. I've come to accept that some people just aren't worth the pain they cause. That betrayal leaves scars, but it also teaches you who you really are. I've learned to be more cautious, more aware, and most of all, more respectful of my own feelings. No one should accept lies and betrayal, no matter how much they love someone. The hardest part was letting go of the hope that she'd change or come back and confess everything. I realized that some people aren't capable of honesty, and trying to fix a broken trust is a losing battle. So I chose to walk away, to finally close that chapter of my life. It hurt like hell, but I knew it was the only way to heal. Now I look forward to rebuilding myself. One day at a time, I'll get past this. I want everyone reading this to remember, no matter how much you love someone, your self-respect has to come first. Never let anyone treat you like an option. Never ignore your instincts, and don't be afraid to walk away from something that's hurting you more than it's helping. Betrayal is a harsh teacher, but a necessary one. It teaches you what you're truly worth. And I'm finally starting to believe I deserve better.